Hey guys, Slimber here, and ignore this mess behind me. I just moved. I'm still putting shit away. But I decided I'm gonna do a video on Ben Shapiro because I just saw Batman on Friday, and he was bitching about it apparently on Twitter, I found out. And he apparently doesn't like the movie. So I figured I'd respond to this. I know some of it's probably gonna be political. A lot of it's not gonna be though. So also spoiler alert, because I'm sure both of us will have spoilers. So let's get right into this, shall we?
So last night I went and saw The Batman, went and saw it with my wife. It is 1 million hours long. And it's one of those movies where I started off and I was like, okay. And then I got a little further in, I was like, all right. And then I got to the end, I was like, meh. And then the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And so you're about to hear a lot of hot takes on The Batman because I hate this movie. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to tell you right up front, spoilers. Spoilers aplenty here. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you want to see the film and you don't want to be spoiled, I'm warning you. You've been warned. All right, this is Detective Batman. So if the original Michael Keaton Batman was sort of crime-fighting Batman and the Christopher Nolan Batman was city-saving Batman, this Batman is supposed to be Detective Batman. And this has a long history in the Batman comics. Some of the best Batman comics, particularly my favorite, The Long Halloween, is rooted in the idea of Batman not just as Caped Crusader, but as a great detective, smarter than everybody else, capable of picking up on clues, investigating and tracking down crimes. I'm going to start with...
So I'm going to go ahead and skip his what's right thing, because basically all he says is he likes the soundtrack, or he thinks the soundtrack's okay, and he liked the visuals, which pretty much everybody who saw it liked the visuals. It was really, really fucking good visuals. I say they did really well with all the scenes and shit. But let's just skip that to his negative opinions, his dog shit takes. Skip it for that.
The biggest problem with the film is that the film hates Batman. Like the actual Batman character hates the Batman character. And this drives me up an absolute wall. The biggest problem with the film is not the wokeness. Yes, there's some woke touches. You have Catwoman, who is a woman of color, who is, of course, good. And you have the black female mayor, who is good. And you have the black Jim Gordon, who is good. Every white character is apparently bad, like all of them.
What are you talking about? Alfred, who was white, was considered like one of the wisest characters in the fucking movie. I mean, Batman himself was white. Clearly not a bad guy. The one victim of the Riddler was white. That what's her face was trying to find, and then they found her dead body. The one cop who grabbed fucking Falcone from Gordon was white. Now, all the white people in the movie were considered bad. Why are you getting that out of that? I clearly can tell you were selectively watching the movie for things that you could cry about on your show.
Fine, whatever. I don't really care about that. That's fine. You have Catwoman say stuff about white privileged elites, and she makes a suggestion that Bruce Wayne as a child, when his parents were killed, he doesn't really have a right to be super upset about that because, of course, he was very, very rich. That doesn't, kind of rings hollow.
Dude, do you not understand subcontext? Are you just taking everything in the movie literal? She was saying that to Batman, who she didn't know was Bruce Wayne. Who she didn't know was Bruce Wayne trying to help solve this crime and stop these murders and help her. It was supposed to perceive her as sort of ignorant. And you also have to look at things from her perspective as a character, because she was an orphan. The renewal fund that was supposed to go to the orphan was taken by all these fucking people. And she's saying Riddler, who was an orphan, I don't think they really 100% knew that at the time, but they're saying that Riddler, who, fucking is killing all these rich people who took from the renewal fund. Man, fuck it, that's what she's saying. Because, yeah, from her perspective, that makes sense. But, yeah, also, subcontext, the Bruce Wayne part's supposed to kind of come off as ignorant on purpose.
Now, a lot of these lines seem like throwaways for film lefty Twitter, but the main theme is not a throwaway. The main theme is what matters here. The film despises Batman. So every Batman iteration has to explain why a man who is a billionaire would dress up like a bat and go around beating up criminals. It's not answered. And the director doesn't know. And the writer doesn't know. And this is the problem. So in the Nolan films, to take the contrast, the question as to why Batman does this is because If Batman does not actually intimidate the criminal underworld because the city is so corrupt, no one else will do it, and money isn't going to solve the problem. And so he needs to create a theatrical kind of fear in order to dissuade the criminal underworld from participating. And then, as it turns out, he also has to save the city itself and demonstrate his faith in the city by becoming a symbol.
That's literally the point of Batman in this movie. Listen, right? The beginning of it, he keeps saying, I am vengeance, because his point of that is to be vengeance, to scare criminals. And then the end, he realizes that he needs to be bigger than vengeance, and he needs to fucking, try to save the fucking city and try to help people instead of just beating the shit out of criminals. That's literally what the point of Batman is in this movie.
Here, you don't really know why Batman is doing what he's doing.
That's not even fucking true, though, because at some point he says it's for its father's legacy. At some point, he kind of makes it out like it's to stop crime. He literally says it in the fucking movie, dude. Like, do you not... Were you out getting popcorn? But it's Ben Shapiro. He selectively listened for shit to get mad about. The facts over feelings guy just is really feelings over facts.
It's never explained. He's very wealthy. He doesn't apparently do anything with his wealth. He doesn't try to give charity. He doesn't... this is actually made a plot point. He's a bad man because he's white. He's a bad white man who doesn't actually give charity. He's not involved, and he's not playing that as a role. Again, this is part of the problem. Is that...
Wait, what? Okay, the point of why he's not involved is because he's obsessed with being Batman and solving this Riddler thing. That's why he's not involved. He even kind of fucking... he doesn't say it, but he basically hints at it in the fucking movie. It's really obvious if you watch the movie. Whenever he's Bruce Wayne, he's obsessed with being Batman. He's 2 years in. He probably doesn't know yet how to separate the persona of Batman and Bruce Wayne.
That Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. So if you... I keep using the Nolan comparison because it is the gold standard for all superhero movies, not just Batman movies.
Listen, I like the Nolan films, but to say they're the gold standard for any comic book movie is fucking ridiculous. I can think of a million better superhero movies. No Way Home, Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange. Okay, it's mostly going to be MCU shit. When it comes to DC, I think up until the Batman, I think that was probably the best of DC. But... yeah, it's not the gold standard for superhero films. What kind of bullshit is that?
So when you look at Nolan's Batman, Bruce Wayne is the character that Batman is playing. Okay, Bruce Wayne is not real. Batman is real. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. And so he has to play a fop. In Batman Begins, he's squiring around ladies in his Lamborghini, and he's buying hotels, and he's doing all of this just to cover up for the fact that he is Batman. So you get very separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. You get the same thing actually with Michael Keaton. Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. Here, Batman and Bruce Wayne are the exact same character. There are points where Bruce Wayne is walking around. He's got the same dour expression, same glazed look, same kind of emo thing going on as Batman does the entire movie.
Well, this was kind of loosely based off Batman Year One. And he does that in Batman Year One, like several times, where he'll put I think he put a fake scar on or something like that, shit like that. And also, as I already mentioned, he's still discovering the difference between the Batman being Batman and the Bruce Wayne persona, and he also is kind of obsessed with being Batman. So yeah, the only time he's gonna do Bruce Wayne shit is if it's for fucking Batman. Because right now, all he cares about, well, in the movie right now, all he cares about is solving the fucking Riddler shit.
And so there's no dichotomy. Alrighty, folks, well, I may not have loved the Batman, but here's the thing. Real Batman knows how to protect himself and protect his family, and you should too, because you need Ring Alarm.
Oh, damn, Ben. I thought you were gonna pull one of these out. But no, we're gonna skip your ad. We don't want to watch your ad.
So here is the actual plot of the film. Batman has only been Batman for a couple of years, so he's not really good at Batmaning yet. And he is tracking down criminals, and he gets drawn into a plot by the Riddler. The Riddler is giving clues so that Batman can track down all the way through the system of Gotham this citywide corruption that apparently is going to bring down the entire superstructure of faith in the city. Meanwhile, you have Catwoman, who's Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe Kravitz is similarly engaged in an attempt to commit a robbery against one of these underworld figures.
Well, first of all, this is kind of important. You should mention this. She's committing a robbery so she can get her hand, I want to say, like, on a passport or an ID of her friend that they basically kidnapped and murdered, but she doesn't know she's dead yet. She's trying to find info to save her friend. So, like, that's kind of important to mention what she's stealing from them. She's not just trying to steal money. She does later. She tries later to steal money. But at the time, she's not trying to just, like, steal anything that's not important.
But she's drawn into Batman's orbit by a murder that both of them are investigating at the same time. The murder of her roommate, maybe something more going on there. The Riddler is the main villain of the movie. You see the Penguin a fair bit. Carmine Falcone is one of the big characters in the movie. You get a little bit of Alfred. Of course, you get Jim Gordon, whose main job in this film is apparently just to say Jesus over and over again.
Christ, it's Coulson.
Whenever something bad happens, he just goes, Jesus. And that happens like 6 times. Like, Jim Gordon does nothing except for basically stop Batman from getting arrested a lot. That's pretty much all he does. He's a bad detective. He doesn't do anything.
Man, I don't know if that's a criticism you're making, but that's kind of always been the point of Jim Gordon. He basically keeps the Gotham City Police Department from going after Batman, and he gives Batman information a lot of times. That's kind of always been the point of Jim Gordon, while Batman does all the work.
Plot is that all these people get killed. Batman uncovers it. He realizes that his dad was corrupt also, or that his dad engaged in corruption with Carmine Falcone. Finally, we get to the end. Paul Dano does it's such a ripoff of Seven. He gives himself up. He doesn't get captured by Batman. Batman does not prevent a single one of these deaths. Batman, in fact, is complicit in one of the deaths by accident. And he doesn't actually capture the Riddler because he's clever. The Riddler gives himself up by sitting at a diner and getting arrested. Then he unleashes a bombing of Gotham that essentially causes the flooding of the city. And Batman goes to the Madison Square Garden, where a mayoral event is now being held for the brand new mayor, who is an uplifting black female who has no other story or backstory, so she's really uninteresting.
Did she really even need a backstory, though? I mean, I'll be honest, the inclusion of her getting shot at the end was kind of random, in my opinion, because, well, I guess it wasn't random. I guess the point was they thought that, you know, every other politician was this bad, so she would be too. But, I mean, did she really need a backstory? The movie didn't really have much focus on her until the very end. I mean, she was in the beginning for a minute. She tried to talk with Bruce a couple times, but she wasn't really that important to the movie, to be quite honest.
It starts to flood, and up on top, in the wings, are a bunch of Paul Dano's followers, are a bunch of the Riddler's followers who are all dressed like the Riddler, and they are shooting down into the crowd to try and kill members of the elite in Gotham City. And so Batman goes up there and he's beating people up. There comes a point where he's beating this guy, and he's really, like, maybe beating him almost to death. And he stops, and they take off that guy's mask, and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I am vengeance." Okay, now this is the theme throughout the film. Ooh, the theme. Okay, so in order to explain why this is a problem, you have to now understand the character of the Riddler. So it says right at the beginning of the movie, "Who is Batman? I'm vengeance," right? He's just on the streets and he's beating people up.
I'm vengeance.
And then people keep calling him Mr. Vengeance for no apparent reason. Like, we don't know why they're calling him that, because he never actually publicly says he's vengeance. It's in his creepy diary.
He says it to criminals. And when they spread it around, they don't say, "Oh, Batman," they say vengeance. And the word keeps going around, and people eventually hear about it. They hear about the rumors. Dude, if you, like, never read a Batman comic or seen anything else Batman related besides a couple fucking movies that simplify everything, I mean, also, it should be very obvious. They kind of pointed out to you in the beginning. Also, like, that guy who takes his mask off and says, "I am vengeance," or after they take his mask off, he says that. I'm pretty sure that was the same guy that Batman saved in the beginning of the movie when he said to the other criminals, "I am vengeance." So that was a callback to the beginning of the movie.
Which, again, is supposed to be a mirror image of the fact that the Riddler also keeps a Zodiac Killer-style diary. So they're supposed to be two halves of the same whole. Batman is beating up this follower of the Riddler's. He takes off his mask, and the guy says, "I'm vengeance." And suddenly Batman sees. Suddenly Batman realizes he can't be vengeance. That's not what he's meant to do. He's betrayed his mission. And so he then descends on an electrified cable because he's trying to stop people from being electrocuted by this flying electrical wire. And he cuts off the cable. He's holding on to it. He falls down into the water. A rebaptism. He gets up, and then he proceeds to lead a bunch of people who are not really trapped, but kind of trapped, I suppose. And he leads them to, I guess, a safer place by carrying a torch. And then he goes up to the top of Madison Square Garden, and he is helping people be airlifted and medevaced out. And this is how he has learned fulfillment. So what is this movie about? This movie is about how fighting criminality does not actually help innocent people. He says this at the very beginning. He says, I'm not sure I'm doing any good. I'm not sure I'm doing any good.
Well, first of all, it's not that it doesn't do any good. It's that it's not enough in the movie. It's not enough. And this will probably lead to, with that ending, with him, like, helping people, escape and getting them in the helicarriers and stuff. I think this might actually lead to maybe him developing the Bruce Wayne persona in the second movie. But yeah, no, the point wasn't that it doesn't help. The point was that it wasn't enough. He needed to do more with it.
By fighting the criminals, crime is still up. It turns out that Batman has to stop being Batman. Batman has been missing it the whole time. What Batman really has to be is Superman. Batman needs to go into areas like Madison Square Garden and not fight the criminals. He needs to go and lead people with a torch to a slightly safer area. He needs to help medevac people on the top of he needs to build Habitat for Humanity. He needs to join Jimmy Carter and build houses for homeless people. That's what Batman needs to be doing.
What the fuck do you think the point of his Bruce Wayne persona is? It's so he can also do charities and shit. It's so he can make sure he can help Gotham economically as well, so that, a lot of people have options, or, like, for example, orphanages don't get money stolen from them. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the Nolan movies he's helping an orphanage out. Batman's for fighting crime that's currently happening. Basically, you could say Bruce Wayne's preventing future crime, Batman's going after, crime that's currently happening, and psychos that were going to happen no matter what.
This really is a sort of attack on the idea that fighting crime helps innocent people. It's an almost defund the police attitude toward what crime is. And it's an attack on the basic idea that individuals are capable of doing justice by finding bad guys and fighting them. Instead, apparently, individuals are only capable of doing nice things by helping little old ladies cross the street. It's this sort of mentality that has led to New York turning into Gotham City in the last couple of years, by the way.
Oh, the last couple of years New York's gotten bad on crime? Yeah, that's totally why Gotham City was based off of New York, right? Because it's totally not always been a problem there. And also, yeah, you're still missing the point of the movie. And how is it defund the police attitude? If anything, when they show that there's a bunch of other cops that aren't in Falcone's pocket in the movie, it's showing the opposites.
That's a fundamental betrayal of what Batman is. What makes Batman different from the Riddler and than any of these other criminals is these criminals target innocent people and Batman targets criminals. That's the basis of the character. The entire basis of the character is the cops are bad at targeting criminals because they're corrupt. Batman is good at targeting criminals because he's smart and because he's rich and because he's incorruptible. That's the entire basis of Batman. And they take all that and they flip it on its head because they don't like Batman.
But that literally was all in the movie. Did we watch the same movie? Did you go out and get popcorn for most of the movie? That was literally in the movie. All of that.
And this is why I have real problems with the movie. I kind of hate the movie. Like, the more I think about it, the more I get angry at it. Because they take the fundamental idea of what Batman is supposed to be, the protector of the innocent who targets the criminal, and they say that if he targets the criminal, this makes him no different than criminals. Because Paul Dano, who's the Riddler, is also targeting criminals. All the way up until the very end, when they have to just sort of add on this attack on Madison Square Garden and New York Broad Writ for no reason. He has no motivation for blowing up a bunch of trucks and flooding downtown. Like, none.
Anyways, clearly Ben didn't watch this whole movie. He clearly went to go get popcorn or something, so we're not even going to entertain the idea of finishing his whole video. But, you can't leave a dislike anymore, so you might as well leave a like. Slimber out.